The first swing of the hammer wasn't supposed to uncover a secret. It was supposed to fix a flaw. But the second the wood cracked open, the past punched back. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a like so this investigation gets the reach it deserves. Contractor Rafael Mendez had renovated enough old homes across upstate Vermont to know when a property had history. But the farmhouse outside Bridger Falls felt different the moment he stepped inside. The place had been empty since the late 90s, bought by a young couple planning to turn it into a rustic Airbnb. A straightforward job, nothing unusual, until Rafe's apprentice, Jonah, tapped his crowbar against a strange steel edge beneath the rotted boards. "Boss, you're gonna want to see this." The hidden panel was reinforced with industrial bolts and a layer of poured concrete, the kind of overkill meant to keep something shut forever. Rafe ran his fingers across the cold metal. Whoever sealed it had meant business. "Grab the cutter," he said. "We're opening it today." The smell hit first, a stale, buried draft that made the crew step back. Jonah leaned over the opening with a flashlight. "Stairs," he muttered. "Finished walls, this isn't a cellar." The stairwell descended into a narrow corridor, its paneling untouched by time, like someone had freeze-framed the past. At the bottom sat a door covered in faded children's wallpaper. Rafe pushed it open and stepped into a perfectly preserved late 1970s girl's bedroom. A tiny bed with ruffled blue sheets, a bookshelf full of picture books, a desk with coloring pencils still arranged by size. Movie posters Superman the Black Stallion Returned to Witch Mountain hung crooked on the walls. Dust coated everything but nothing had been disturbed, not in decades. "This is wrong," Jonah whispered. Rafe opened the closet. Small dresses hung neatly in a row, their fabric yellowed with time. On the top shelf sat a tin box decorated with cartoon bears. He pulled it down, popped the lid, and froze. Inside were 5 human teeth. Everything changed in that moment. Within the hour, the property was roped off. The county coroner arrived alongside Detective Mara Ellison of the Addison County Sheriff's Office. She stepped into the room with the posture of someone who had seen enough darkness to stop being surprised. Yet even she paused. "This room wasn't part of the original structure," she said, running a hand along the wall. "Someone built this intentionally. Someone hid it." And then she shared what chilled the room even more. The house once belonged to the Derringer family, who had lost their youngest daughter, Leila Derringer, in 1982. Official story. She ran away at age 10. Case closed in 48 hours. No signs of foul play, no follow-up, no searches. Now a sealed bedroom had been found beneath their floor, a bedroom made for a child, a bedroom no one was ever supposed to find. And this, Detective Ellison suspected, was only the beginning. Detective Mara Ellison had worked cold cases for almost a decade, but this one felt personal before she even understood why. The hidden room was too deliberate, too intact. Someone had cared enough to preserve it and cared enough to bury it alive. What bothered her most wasn't the room. It was the house's timeline. The Derringer family, Harold, Vivian, and their 4 children, had lived here until 1998, when the last surviving member, Vivian, entered hospice. Their youngest daughter, Leila, had vanished 16 years earlier. The official file was barely 2 pages long. No interviews with neighbors, no search grids, no autopsy, no photographs. A disappearance that looked more like a paperwork error. 3 days after the discovery, news broke statewide. Secret child's room found under Vermont farmhouse flooded every channel. That morning, Ellison's phone rang. "This is Mara," she answered. A trembling voice met her. I knew that girl. I lived next door until 85. My name's Ethan Caro." Ellison straightened. "You were neighbors with the Derringers," a shaky breath. "I remember noises, crying, and once she threw something over our fence, a note. I was 15. I didn't understand what to do." "What did the note say?" Silence. Then, soft as a confession, "I'm not allowed to leave. I'm still here. Please tell someone. Signed, Leila." The line went dead. Ellison wasted no time. She pulled every missing children's case filed between 1976 and 1986 within a 40-mile radius. The list was longer than she expected, too long. Many were orphans, transients, or kids placed into temporary care. And in several reports, buried in witness notes or early interviews, a familiar name appeared. The Derringers had been questioned, casually, inconsistently, never followed up. While sifting through dusty archives, Mara spotted something that didn't belong. Officer signatures were missing, evidence logs unfiled. One investigator closed Leela's case in less than 48 hours. His name, Detective Gordon Hale. Retired now, living 2 counties east, Ellison drove out to see him. He opened the door with a stiff expression like he'd been expecting her. "Detective Hale," she said, "I'm reopening the Derringer investigation." "Waste of resources," he muttered. "Girl ran away, end of story. A 10-year-old disappears without a trace and that didn't strike you as odd." "I followed protocol," he snapped. "If you're digging this up 40 years later, that's your problem. Not mine." He slammed the door. Ellison stood on the porch, pulse heavy. Something about Hale's reaction was too defensive, too rehearsed. She had hit a nerve. Back at the crime scene, forensics uncovered another clue, a crawlspace beneath the bed frame in the hidden room. Inside sat a metal lockbox. Inside the lockbox, 8 Polaroids, the same girl in each. Red hair, freckles, uneasy smile. And in the final photo, she held a cardboard sign, "This is not my home." But one detail rattled Ellison most. On the roof of the toy dollhouse in the room, carved into the tiny shingles with something sharp, were 7 sets of initials. Only one matched Leela Derringer. The rest were unknown. 7 initials. 7 children. 1 house. The room wasn't just a prison, it was a ledger, and someone had kept count. Detective Mara Ellison stood over the evidence table, staring at the dollhouse roof. 7 sets of initials, each one cut deeply, almost angrily, like the child who carved them wanted the world to remember, if the world ever found this place at all. "Assume the worst," she muttered. Forensics started cross-referencing the initials with missing children from the region. The first match surfaced within hours. T.L. Tyler Lorman, age 9, vanished walking to the bus stop in 1979. A W. April Wexley, age 7, disappeared from a church picnic in 1980. M.C. Marisol Cortez, age 6, last seen leaving daycare in 1982. Each case shared one strange detail. The Derringers were interviewed but never seriously questioned. Sometimes they saw the child near the road. Sometimes they heard a commotion. Always just close enough to be inserted into the narrative, but never close enough to be blamed. Patterns were forming like bruises under the surface. Mara pulled property transfers for the Derringer family and found something else. Harold Derringer purchased 3 wooded parcels just north of their farmhouse in the early 80s. Only one remained unoccupied, 10 acres of dense, untouched forest. She got a warrant. On day 2 of the search, cadaver dogs froze near a thicket of pine, then again near a patch of moss, then again near a shallow rise of earth. They found 3 graves. Dental matches confirmed: Tyler, April, Marisol. Ellison stared at the bodies as the coroner zipped the bags. The cold air stung her eyes, but she wouldn't let herself blink. 3 children, 3 initials, 3 buried truths. But 4 sets of initials still had no match. Back at the farmhouse, forensics made another discovery, this one worse. Beneath the toy chest in the hidden room was a false bottom. Inside it, wrapped carefully in wax paper, lay a strip of 35mm film. After development, 8 photographs emerged, all children, all sitting in the same small chair against the same wallpapered wall, some smiling weakly, some terrified. One girl wore a camp t-shirt, Camp Riverbend, 1977. Ellison contacted the camp. The girl was identified within hours. Emily Teague, age 8, reported missing during a family road trip. Her case had gone cold in under a month. Another initial matched. E.T. The body count climbed to 5. And yet the most disturbing moment came not from evidence, but from an envelope. A plain, unmarked envelope left on Ellison's desk, no postage, no fingerprints. Inside was a letter and a Polaroid of the dollhouse taken in the mid-80s. The letter read, "They never let her leave." She begged. I couldn't stop them, but I built her a room so she'd feel safe. There are more. Look beneath the floorboards. The truth runs deeper than you think. SS, a signature with no full name. Mara's instincts sharpened. Only one person connected to the Derringers had a name starting with S. Samuel Derringer, the eldest son. 40 years older than Leela. Never charged with anything. Vanished from public records in 2004. He lived off-grid now, somewhere in northern Maine. Ellison found him in a tiny, weather-beaten cabin, miles from the nearest paved road. When he opened the door, he didn't deny anything. "You're here about the others," he said softly. "We're here about all of them," Ellison corrected. Samuel nodded slowly, as if he'd been waiting decades for this. "Then I guess it's time you knew what really happened." He stepped aside. Inside, the walls were covered with drawings, crayon sketches, childish faces, little hands scribbled names. Leela appeared in dozens of them. Samuel's voice cracked. "She never should have been down there. I tried to help. I built the dollhouse. I brought her books, but I wasn't strong enough to stop them." Ellison leaned forward. "Who kept her imprisoned?" Samuel swallowed hard. "My sister," he whispered. "Serena. Serena said Leela had to be tamed." He shut his eyes. "And she wasn't the last. There was a boy before all of them. They buried him under her floor." Mara's blood ran cold. 7 initials, 5 bodies recovered, 1 living witness unaccounted for. And now, an 8th child no one had ever known existed. The room beneath the farmhouse wasn't the whole story. It was just chapter 1. The excavation team arrived at dawn. Frost clung to the farmhouse windows, and the old beams groaned as if they knew what was coming. Detective Mara Ellison stood over the hidden room, remembering Samuel's words. There was a boy before all of them. They buried him under her floor. The crew removed the boards beneath the tiny bed frame. Soil gave way quickly. Just 18 inches down, ground-penetrating radar lit up. They dug carefully, slowly, silently. 2 hours later, they unearthed a wooden carpenter's chest, old, hand-built, coated in dust. Inside lay the skeletal remains of a small boy no older than 7. No clothes, no name. Only a rusted silver pendant clutched in one tiny hand. A single letter etched into it. Mara felt the weight of it in her palm. "Who were you?" she whispered. Analysis revealed the chest dated back to the early 1950s, decades before the Derringer children were even born. This boy hadn't just been hidden, he had been erased. Ellison returned to question Samuel, who sat at a metal table in county lockup, posture slumped, eyes hollow. She placed the pendant on the steel. "His name," Samuel's lip trembled. "Dorian. He came to live with us in 1970. I was a kid. My mother said he was a ward of the state, but no paperwork ever came. My father said the government didn't need to know everything." "What happened to him?" Samuel didn't look up. "My sister, Serena, said he saw something he shouldn't have, something our father did. One day she claimed he'd run away, but I heard the hammer." He shivered. "I heard him scream." That answer opened a new door. Ellison pulled foster care records from the late 1960s. Many files had burned in a warehouse fire in 1971. But one record survived, barely. An infant listed only as DJ, placed temporarily after his parents died in a house fire. No adoption forms, no follow-up notes. Last supervisor, caseworker Henry Alden, deceased in 1980, DJ Dorian. The carved initials on the dollhouse roof weren't just names. They were a roll call of the forgotten. And one set still had no match. L.B. Mara's instincts pulled her back to the farmhouse. They'd scanned the floors, the grounds, the crawl spaces, but not the walls. While reviewing structural diagrams, a forensic tech noticed a strange void behind an upstairs hallway wall. No plumbing, no vents, nothing requiring hollow space. A demo crew was called. Mara watched as a section of wall came down. Dust billowed, light poured into darkness. Inside was a second hidden room, small, doorless, windowless, sealed shut from the outside with screws and nails. A child-sized mattress lay on the floor, flattened with age. A rusted chamber pot sat in the corner. A crude vent had been punched through the ceiling toward the attic, and carved into the drywall were 3 letters scratched again and again. LB. LB lower on the wall, nearly invisible under paint, faint words read, "Lily, help me, please." But there was no body, no bones, only a name. This changed everything. If LB wasn't dead, she might still be alive. Mara issued a statewide search for women aged 40–45 with uncertain childhoods. No birth records, disrupted placements, memory gaps. Her team scoured foster logs, school enrollments, old welfare checks. Finally, a hit surfaced. Lily Beach, born 1980, found wandering the woods near Mapleford in 1993. No memory, no family, placed in long-term state care due to trauma-induced amnesia. Now living in a supervised home in Traverse Harbor. Mara drove north that same night. She found Lily sitting quietly in a garden watching birds hop across the grass. Her expression was calm, almost childlike. A staff member whispered, "She speaks very little, but she remembers things in ways we don't always understand." Mara knelt beside her and offered a photograph, the dollhouse roof, the carved initials. "Lily," she said softly, "do you know this?" Lily's eyes widened. Her fingers trembled as she touched the photo. She traced her own initials, the familiarity unmistakable. Then she began humming. Soft, broken, a lullaby. Mara froze. It was the same melody from Leela's old recordings. Lily looked up, tears in her eyes, and for the first time she spoke clearly. "Leela was my sister." Detective Mara Ellison sat across from Lily Beach in a quiet interview room, sunlight cutting a pale line across the table. The moment Lily said, "Leela was my sister," everything shifted. For decades, Leela had been the tragic ghost of the Derringer case. But now there was someone who had lived through the walls, breathed the same hidden air, survived what the others hadn't. Mara spoke gently. "Lily, can you tell me anything else about her?" Lily's gaze drifted toward the window. Her fingers tapped softly, rhythmically, like she was searching through memories trapped beneath dust. Then she whispered a single phrase. "She braided my hair in the dark." Nothing more. But it was enough. DNA confirmation came back within 48 hours. A hair strand recovered from a toy in the hidden room matched Lily's sample at 99.94%. They were siblings, but something didn't align. Lily was born in 1980. Leela had been imprisoned as early as 1975. That meant Lily wasn't taken from the outside. She had been born into captivity, raised inside hidden spaces. A child the world never recorded. Her survival wasn't just miraculous, it defied every assumption of the case. Mara returned to the Derringer farmhouse, this time with structural engineers and a dedicated forensic team. Something Samuel said kept echoing. "There's more in the attic." Behind a false panel, they found them, 24 notebooks, each filled with cramped handwriting. The first page and every one bore the same initials, LD Leela Derringer. They were her diaries. The entries chronicled years of isolation. "Lily's hair is soft. She doesn't know what outside is. I told her birds are real," she laughed. "Serena hit me for being too loud. She asked why we don't have windows. I said this is where we live." She cried. I sang to her. I pressed Lily's hand to the vent so she could feel the breeze. I told her that breeze had touched the sky. The final entry was dated 1991, then nothing. Mara closed the last notebook with shaking hands. It was more than evidence. It was testimony from a girl who never stopped fighting. The next move was obvious. Find Serena Derringer. It took only 2 days to locate her. She was living under the name Serena Hale in a stucco house outside Prescott, Arizona, married to none other than retired Detective Gordon Hale, the same officer who had dismissed Leela's disappearance in 1982. The circle snapped shut. Arizona officers moved in before sunrise. Serena answered the door in a robe, eyes foggy with sleep. Mara stepped forward. Serena Derringer, you're under arrest for kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and the murder of multiple children across Addison County. Serena didn't argue, didn't deny, didn't question why. She simply smiled. I wondered when you'd come. In the interrogation room, Serena sat calmly, hands folded, sipping the coffee she'd requested. Mara leaned in. Why did you lock Leela away? Because she was broken, Serena said matter-of-factly. Too curious, too needy. Father said curiosity was poison, we were cleansing her. And Dorian, Mara pressed. Serena tilted her head. He saw things. Father said some children aren't meant to grow. Lily, Serena scoffed. She was an accident. Mother said she was a punishment, but Leela kept loving her, protecting her. Leela was always too soft. Mara's voice hardened. Did you kill Layla? Serena smirked. She did that herself. She stopped eating, gave her food to Lily. I didn't have to do anything. The room went silent. Back at the farmhouse, as crews prepared for demolition, one last discovery surfaced. Behind a wall panel in the hidden bedroom was a cassette tape dated August 9, 1991. The grainy recording flickered to life. Leela, thin, pale, seated on her bed. If you're watching this, then I'm gone. But maybe Lily isn't. Please let her see sunlight. Don't let them bury her like they buried the others. The screen went black. Mara wiped her eyes. No case had ever cut this deep. But the story wasn't over. Lily was still missing one truth, the one Leela died protecting. And Mara intended to find it. Detective Mara Ellison thought the case was finally reaching its end. Serena arrested, the victims identified, Lily safe at last. But closure has a way of slipping through cracks, especially in houses built on lies. 2 weeks after Serena's arrest, a clerk from the county archives called. We found something. A box. It was mislabeled. You should probably come in. The briefcase they handed Mara was old, metal, and dented. No lock. No tag. Inside lay a digital He-8 camcorder and a stack of tapes, each marked with a date between 1983 and 1991. Her pulse tightened. These weren't evidence tapes. These were private recordings. She brought them to the forensic media room. Behind closed doors, she pressed play. Tape 1, instructions, a man's voice. Calm, cold, methodical. This will document the discipline. Serena, you'll maintain control. The girl must break her will. Curiosity leads to sin. Mara froze. The voice belonged to Harold Derringer, the patriarch. Leela wasn't locked away because she misbehaved. She was locked away because Harold believed obedience was salvation. Tape 2, punishment. Leela's voice filled the speakers, small, trembling. I'm sorry, I just wanted to see the trees. A slap. Serena's voice sharp as a blade. You don't get to want things. Father says darkness teaches discipline. Leela sobbed quietly, then began humming the lullaby she'd taught Lily years later. Mara clenched her jaw so tightly it hurt. Tape 3, the arrival, a baby crying. Serena whispering, Leela, this is your responsibility. You will raise her or she dies. Leela's startled reply. Whose baby is she? No more questions, be her mother or be replaced. Mara felt sick. Lily hadn't been adopted, she'd been assigned. Tape 4, a visit, footsteps, doors, voices. A child welfare officer, Mara recognized the name from old logs, James Mayfield, talking casually with Harold. She's visiting relatives, Harold lied smoothly. No need to check the lower level. Mayfield chuckled. Your girls are always well behaved, I've never had issues here. The tape ended. They never searched, never questioned, never doubted the patriarch. Systemic failure spelled out on magnetic tape. Tape 5, fever. Leela's voice was panicked. She's burning up, please, she needs a doctor. Serena, you figure it out, weakness isn't an excuse. Then a crash, a scream, silence. Mara had to stop the tape for a moment. This wasn't just evidence. This was a diary of torture. Tape 6, the final days. Leela spoke slowly now, breath shallow. I gave Lily my soup again, she needs it more. I can't keep anything down. If someone finds this, please, please let her see the sky. A long pause. I hope she finds the sun. Mara pressed her palm to her forehead. Leela knew she was dying. She recorded it anyway. Tape 7. Serena's confession. Serena recorded herself in 1992. She's gone. I buried her where the roots grow thick. The little one is next, but this time no stories, no songs. A whisper followed, chilling. The obedient survive, the others are taken. The recording ended with static, but something was wrong. The box was labeled 8 tapes. Only 7 were inside. One was missing. Mara tore through evidence logs and found it, signed out by a deputy in 2004. The deputy had died in 2013. His personal items were still in storage. Hours later, she found it in a dusty VHS case. The missing tape, tape 8, the footage showed Lily at around 10 years old, curled on a mattress. Beside her lay a still figure, Leela, but Lily moved, crawled to the vent, pressed her fingers against it. Her tiny voice whispered, "I'll find the door." And then the camera tilted upward toward a sliver of light above the vent. Leela had filmed her sister's first spark of escape. Mara wiped her eyes. For the first time, a clear picture formed. Leela Derringer didn't just survive captivity. She protected. She documented. She resisted. She taught her sister how to get out. She had left a trail not to free herself but to free Lily. And the trail wasn't finished. One name from the dollhouse roof still had no match. One child was still missing. One truth still buried. The story wasn't ending. It was expanding. Detective Mara Ellison had solved impossible cases before, but the Derringer investigation refused to stay closed. Leela's tapes had cracked the house wide open, yet one shadow still lingered, the final set of initials carved into the dollhouse roof. LB Lily Beach had survived. So who was the missing child? The clue came from an unlikely place. A janitor at the county archives found a warped storage box behind a false panel, almost thrown out during renovations. Inside were brittle documents, Polaroids, and a single sheet labeled simply, "The Orchard List 1984 names of placements," handwritten, half crossed out, some followed by crude symbols. Mara scanned down the page. Tyler Lorman, April Wexley, Emily Teague, Marisol Cortez, Dorian, Leela Derringer, Lily Beach, and one more, Maya Rowan, last seen 1984. Status, transferred, Maya, the initial that had eluded them for months, MR. A name buried in bureaucratic rubble. But transferred to where? Mara checked satellite images of the Derringer property from the 80s. A small orchard behind the barn, once full of apple trees, had since rotted into a perfect circle of dead trunks, an orchard dying from the inside out. She assembled a small team and returned to the land. Cadaver dogs alerted within minutes at the base of a twisted apple tree. The soil crumbled easily, as if it had been disturbed before. Under 4 feet of earth, they found a child-sized grave. Maya Rowan, arms crossed over her chest, wrapped in a floral sheet. In her hand, she clutched a photograph of Serena as a teenager, the back scrawled with a trembling message. "You promised." Mara swallowed hard. Another life stolen, another name reclaimed. At the memorial garden behind the State Justice Museum, Maya was buried beside Leela. Visitors left paper sunflowers. Lily Beach stood silently between the graves, holding one of Leela's notebooks in both hands. She didn't cry. She just breathed slowly, peacefully, like someone finally stepping out from a lifetime of darkness. But the case wasn't done with Mara. A week later, an envelope showed up on her desk. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid of Leela surrounded by several children, some identified, some not. 2 figures in the background remained unknown, half hidden in shadow. On the back was a chilling message. There were more houses. Mara froze. She ran the faces through every database available. Only one match surfaced. Reverend Conrad Myers, leader of a closed Pentecostal splinter group that vanished in 1994, right around the time the Derringer house went silent. Cross-state welfare records flagged irregular transfers tied to families in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New Hampshire. Unregistered placements, missing children, falsified inspections. Not a single house of horrors, but a network hiding behind faith, behind community respect, behind broken paper trails. The FBI launched a regional task force, Operation Lantern Choir, with Mara Ellison appointed as special consultant. Lily agreed to let portions of her story be used to locate other survivors. At a press conference in Burlington, Mara stepped to the podium, voice steady. "We thought this story ended with one family. We were wrong. It didn't end there, it began there." Lily stood quietly beside her, a small sunflower pinned to her sleeve. After the conference, a child handed Lily a note in crayon. "Thank you for surviving. You helped us see the truth." Lily pressed the note to her chest. As Mara watched her, she understood something with total clarity. Leela Derringer never lived to see the world again, but her light had cracked the darkness wide open. And now every hidden child had a chance to be found. Before Mara left the podium, a reporter asked, "Detective, what comes next?" She looked straight into the cameras. "Now," she said, "we stop looking away." If this story hit you, don't forget to subscribe and drop a like. And tell me in the comments, do you think the remaining houses will ever be found, or has the network gone even deeper?